oh, you've caught me in the middle of writing stuff down. I was just writing some of my thoughts down on a piece of parchment here, like, you know, some of my thoughts from, like, my time when I was with Jesus, you know. But Jesus, I spent a lot of time with Jesus when I was younger, like, you know, I'm a bit of an old man now, like, you know. But I was one of Jesus' first followers or his disciples. Oh, I forgot to say, my name's Peter. And I spent about 3 years or so with Jesus. We went out and about here, there and everywhere, like, you know. We went, I was a fisherman, you see. He's for go and catch fish. And Jesus says to me, I want I want you to become a fisherman of men. But that's another story, like, you know. But anyway, what was I saying? I'm writing down some of my thoughts for time I was with Jesus. And I'm just thinking back to a special time. You see, every single year, people like myself and other followers of Jesus, like we what we were called Jewish people or Israelites or Hebrews. And every year we used to have to go to the temple in Jerusalem. One of the festivals we had to go to each year was a festival called Passover. And it was a time for us Jewish people, like, for remember what had happened back when we were back in Egypt as slaves, and under Moses we'd like been freed from Egyptians, and we remember Passover, like. And there were certain things we had to do for Passover, and we had to have certain foodstuffs and things like that, and do certain things. And this particular year, we'd celebrated Passover before with Jesus, quite a few times actually, but this particular year we says to Jesus, Jesus, you know, it's getting close to Passover, like, you know, where do you want us to go for prepare for Passover meal that we're going to have? I mean, he says something funny to us, because it's about strange. We were at the city of Jerusalem, like, and he says, go off into the city, and you look for a man that's carrying a water jar. We went, right, okay, going to carry a water jar, this man's going to... So we didn't think out about it, so we went and we found this man that was carrying a water jar. And Jesus had said to us, he's going to take you to an upper room in his house, like, you know, and you just follow him, and when he stops, you know, he might do it, like, you know, that's the place we want to go, and we're going to celebrate Passover. So we went into town, to the city, like, you know, saw a fellow with water jar, and we follows him. Me and a couple of lads were like, you know, keeping back a little bit, you know, what was going on. Took us to this lovely room. We started to prepare a Passover meal for Jesus. Look at this, eh? Hey, come on. Hey, look at this. Oh, it's great, this. Oh, look at this, like, here. Big James, come on. This looks very, take a seat. Very good, Peter. Yes. Yes. There you go. Oh, yes. You remember Jesus saying to us, like, you know, he couldn't wait for, like, share Passover with us this year. Well, we've done it many times before with Jesus. I'm not quite sure why this year particularly is a bit different, like. You know, at the same time we were doing that, like, one of our disciples, a guy called Judas, now he was a man that kept the money, like. We didn't know Judas had other plans. He'd gone off and he was talking to high priest. That's the high priest in charge at temple, like, you know, in Jerusalem, big temple in Jerusalem, like, you know. And he were asking high priest for money. Now, Judas was like, you know, he was money man, like, you know, he kept the money, like, for us lot, like. But what he were asking for, he said, how much, he says, are they going to give me, says Judas, to betray Jesus to you? That is like, tell you where Jesus is going to be. Because a lot of people loved what Jesus said. Lots of people loved it, but there were some people didn't like what Jesus had to say. They didn't like it, and they were like, these are the high priests and so they didn't like what he had to say. They wanted to get rid of him, like, you know what I mean? So Judas were given like 30 pieces of silver. We knew nought about this until Judas comes in, like, you know, he was like shoving something in his belt, like, you know, and he comes in and he says, "Oh, yeah, you're all right," like, you know, and he sits down and we starts having this meal with Jesus, like. We did the usual stuff we do at Passover, but then Jesus did some slightly different things, you know. For example, like, you know, he took a piece of bread and he sort of broke it, like, and he said, "This is like my body that's broken for you." And we're like, what's he mean by that? Well, like, us lads, like, we're looking at each other, like, you know, and what's he talking about, like, his body broken? And he got some wine out of a flask, like, and he pours it out, and he says, "This is a new covenant in my blood," he said. "It's going to be shed for you lot." And he passes his cup round, and we all has a drink of this. Only wine, like, you know, but that's not what we used to do at Passover. We didn't quite know what exactly this all meant, like. Then he says to us, one of you lot round here, that I've been with for so long, one of you is going to betray me." Well, we looks at each other. We were all like shocked. We had that shock face on, like, what? Someone's going to betray Jesus? It didn't take us too long to work out who it was, because suddenly Judas gets up. And he walks out. He was out through the door. Now at first, we thought because he got the money, he would go and buy more food. Later revealed that actually no, he were going to tell high priest where Jesus was going to be. We finished our meal. Jesus said, "Come on, we've got to go off now," he said, "and we're going to go to the Garden of Gethsemane." So off we trot, crossed the Mount of Olives and garden, like a special garden, lovely place it were. And Jesus just said, "Stay here for a while." So we all sat down, getting late at night, like, you know, it's dark, and we all sits down. Jesus goes off. Next minute, me and lads are like fast asleep, like, oh, it was so late at night, you know, we couldn't keep our eyes open. We'd been going all day, like, you know. We'd walked into Jerusalem and we were setting up Passover and all that. And Jesus comes back and he says, "Can you not stay awake with me just for that little bit of time, like?" He went off again. We fell asleep again. Sorry. But then he come back again and said, "Right, that's it. Time's up," he said. And just at distance we could see like little torches going brighter and brighter, flaming torches, and the odd flash of a metal blade. It were high priest with some soldiers, and they were Judas with them. And Judas like steps forward, and Jesus kind of stepped forward, and it was that really sad moment, like, you know, and there's Jesus and there's Judas, and Judas kissed him on the cheek. And he says, "Rabbi." And I heard Jesus say, he said, "You're going to betray me," he said, "with a kiss." Judas stepped back, and they arrested Jesus, took him away. Us lads were like, "Oh, what, Jesus had been arrested, what are we going to do?" Like, panicking, like, you know, so we just legged it, like, you know, we scattered here, there, and everywhere. Like, get away from it quick, you know, we don't want to get arrested as well, like, you know. Felt a bit guilty about that, actually, when it happened, because Jesus was my best friend, really, and I'd like, just let him get on with it, like, you know, and I followed a little bit of a distance, like, you know, just keeping it shadows and making sure I didn't get caught and seen, you know, sort of jumping between houses and watch where they went. And they took Jesus to the high priest's house, like, you know, and they questioned him all night long. I were a bit cold, and somebody lit a fire outside it courtyard, like, and I went to warm myself by fire. But when I was there, like, somebody looked at me and said, "Hey, I think I've seen you with Jesus." I looks at him and says, what, me? No, I've never seen Jesus at all. No way, like, you know. I've never known on him. Anyway, I moves a bit further away, like, and somebody else comes and says, oh, you speak like one of them from up Galilee, like up north. You must be like one of Jesus' followers. And I'm like, no, not me, you know. And then it happened again. Funny thing is, like, you know, when we've been sat down before having Passover meal, Jesus had actually said to me, like, you know, one of you is going to betray me. And I'd said, no, not me. But he said to me, Peter, you yourself, you're going to deny me, not once, not twice, but 3 times before the cockerel crows tomorrow morning. And I'd said, no, not like that. They'll never guess what happened next. I said 3 times, I didn't know Jesus. What do I hear in the background? Cockerel crow. I felt so bad. I went out and I just cried. I'd let Jesus down big style. I was so upset. Next morning, like, they'd beaten Jesus up quite badly. Accused him of all things he'd never done, like. They take him out to crucify him. That was horrible, that was. All women folk, like, you know, they'd all watched him as they were crucifying, and we were just so scared. We ran away, we did. We didn't like it. Outside at City Wall in Jerusalem, stuck him on a cross, next to 2 criminals. One of the criminals on one side laughed at him. He said, you've done all these great things, and you say you're Son of God, well, why don't you jump off cross and save yourself? On the other side, he said, well, we deserve to be here, we done something wrong. And he looked at Jesus and he said, Jesus, when you go to heaven, will you remember me? And Jesus said he would. Then it went dark. Middle of the day it went dark. No, normally go dark in the middle of the day. We were dark for about 3 hours. Then in the middle of the afternoon, like, Jesus calls out. And people thought he were like calling out, like, you know, for help, like. Calling out for some Elijah or some prophet or something, like. And then he died. We at rest at lads, we were like hiding. Out at way, like. Sometime later, they took his body off cross, like, and they wrapped it up in a cloth, like, and they carried it to an unused tomb that someone had lent us. And they put the body in the tomb and they rolled a great big stone over it. Me and lads went back to upper room, absolutely petrified. We were like really scared, looking round like, you know, what's going to happen if there's a knockout door, like, you know, and somebody comes for to see us, and we were there. And we stayed there for days and days and days. It felt like ages, right? But actually, it was like 3 days later, Sunday morning, like, you know, they'd come and knock out door, and we all like, oh, panicking, like, you know, what is that? They were Mary. Mary were one of our friends too. She'd gone round with us with Jesus all the time, like, and Mary came in through the door, like, you know, and so excited, like, you know, and I thought, how can you be so excited when you've just seen Jesus crucified and put in a tomb, like? She said, I've just been to a tomb with a couple of other people, and, like, body's not there, body's gone. And we were like, no, we can't be, body doesn't disappear like that. So we runs off to tomb with her, and we get there and we looked in tomb, and there was nobody at tomb. And then we suddenly, like, remembered what Jesus had said. He said, I'm going to die. But 3 days later, I'm going to rise again. And he did. Later on that day, we were back at upper room again, and there was another knock at the door, and we were like, oh, what's going on? And 2 people had been walking back home from festival at Passover, and they were walking along, and they were sad, and they were talking, and Jesus appeared to them, and they realised it was Jesus, and he came running back to us and said, Jesus is alive, we've seen him. And then he appeared to us in upper room, and then again in Galilee, and he really was alive. Well, 40 days later or so, he went off back up into heaven, and we all stood there looking up to him and thinking, whoa. And as we were stood there, looking, thinking, well, is that it? Jesus is gone. But he made promises to us. He said, I'm going to send a helper to you. And that did happen, but that's another story, that is. But we were looking up into heaven thinking, well, off he goes, there he goes through clouds. And then we hear this voice from heaven, and it says, Men of Galilee, what's they looking up for like that, this Jesus you've just seen going up there, he says he's going to be back down again soon, but riding on clouds of heaven, and he'll be coming back now, go on and get on with what he's been told for to do. Because Jesus had told us that go into all the world and tell people about him. And for telling them about all good stuff that Jesus had done, and we've been doing that ever since. That's why I'm writing some of this stuff down, See, because Jesus died, for all things that we'd done wrong, really. I've come to realise that now. I've done lots of things wrong in my life. But Jesus came, and he came to die. And in that moment of blackness when he were dying, that's when all badness were put on him. Jesus died. But good news is he rose again. And he rose and went back up into heaven, so that we can have a hope of going to see him in heaven. And I think that is really good news. And that's something that we need to write about. And write about it and tell everybody else about it until the day Jesus comes back. But in the meantime, I best get on with finishing writing this, so that people will know exactly how it all happened.